Rohit Sawhney to please come on the stage and give his presentation on Optimize Your Network with BYOD. Rohit has more than 13 years of experience in networking and security. He started his networking career from IBM and then moved to Juniper. Now he is working with Juniper as Senior Technology Consultant. Over to you, Rohit.
Good morning. I'm sure you're able to hear me. That's fine. Okay. My name is Rohit Sawhney and I work with Juniper Networks as a Senior Solution Consultant supporting the enterprise business for India. So I'm sure you would agree with the fact that BYOD actually has transitioned to a reality from being a buzzword 2 years, 3 years back. There are organizations who are adopting BYOD as a practice. So that's the reason we selected this topic. We chose this topic. I thought we'll spend next 30 minutes talking about different BYOD trends, different kind of use cases of BYOD. We'll try to see that if we can simplify the definition of BYOD, because being a buzzword, not many people have their own way of defining BYOD. It's not about a solution, it's not about a platform, it's not about a software. It's actually a guideline, it's actually a practice, it's actually a framework where a lot of solution components actually fit into the things. So we'll see if we can simplify the definitions. We'll share some of the reports for the people or for the organization who still refrain themselves for adopting this technology or adopting this concept. As I said, there are a lot of definitions into this. There are organizations who have already embraced this concept, but there are organizations who feel that this is not the right way to go as of now, or probably this is not the right approach to bring external device to the network. And there are some XYZ reasons the people are refraining themselves, or organizations are refraining themselves to adapt this technology. So we'll share some reports from a major analyst, major research firms, who will share that why should you move into this direction, and what are the actual figures and facts about the things which are actually encompassing this BYOD trend. So this is how the agenda goes. We'll talk about some of the stats and reports. We'll see if we can simplify the BYOD definition and we all come onto a same page. BYOD and Junos Pulse. This Junos Pulse is actually a solution framework from Juniper in this subject, and then we'll summarize the thing. So we'll spend next 30 minutes, and then last 10 minutes my colleague Deepak will come and will try to demonstrate some of the solution set from Juniper for this subject. This is one of the report from Gartner, who is a major analyst firm, and what it says basically, if 1.8 billion phones which are going to be sold in 2013, is just an estimate, out of them 1 billion phones would be smartphones. Now, what does that summarize to? If 1.8 billion are the normal mobile phones which probably would be sold in 2013, 1 billion would be smartphones, which means that mobile devices are not just become a voice handled device. They are transitioning to a data-centric device. So the moment you have smartphones, obviously you are going to have some kind of data plans or internet plans on that. You are going to leverage your phone for your personal usage or probably for your business usage. The next report says that 76% of mobile device users, okay, this is just a sample survey. 76% of mobile device users use their mobile device to access the critical information like business applications or personal stuff like banking, medical records and all that. So there means there is a drastic use of mobile device for personal stuff as a data usage. And then 9 out of 10 business users use their mobile devices for the business application access, which means now there is a balance. 76% use for their personal stuff, and 9 out of 10 business users use their mobile phones or mobile devices for their business stuff. So even if organizations who think that no, they don't have the user base who basically come to their network and use their network or use their resources, these kind of reports actually emphasize the thing that yes, there is a need for this kind of concept. The organizations who have already embraced this is really great. The organizations who have not embraced this or would like to, these figures will put actually emphasis on that. One more survey which says that the top pie chart shows that 70% of the organizations have already embraced this concept. They have laid their foundation, they have adopted that, they are working on the strategy, but still 30% of the organizations are things which are lagging behind for XYZ reason. And if you see the below report, which is the major crux here, even if you don't embrace BYOD as I said initially, there are personal mobiles which are brought by the users, and they are brought into the network and are used for accessing the network resources. Even if the organizations are not giving their corporate phones, corporate devices which are controlled and managed by them, they are personal use phones which are basically, you see the ratio is almost 50-50, and they are being brought into a network and the organizations are not aware of that. So something is required to control and to manage that kind of stuff. A final report, a final research says that 41% of the users use their mobile phone to access the network and the organizations are not aware of that. For example, if I working with Juniper Networks, if I have not been given a phone from corporate, I bring my own iPhone or iPad and I try to access my corporate resources by some other means, and my IT organization is not aware of that. So what finally that actually concludes? It concludes that obviously if the device which is brought into my network is not controlled, there is a sharp possibility of bringing some kind of bomb, some kind of attacks from that device. Now that device, because my personal device is not controlled, that might be full of and viruses, bombs and all that things, and once that brings to the network, there is a tight possibility that my network gets disrupted. Again, the second thing is that if I use my personal device, which is not a controlled device for organization purpose, and I access a lot of files, lot of information. For example, if I am a person who is from the finance side, I access a lot of money stuff and financial stuff, and take that stuff into my mobile phone or my handheld device. And some way that device get lost, the intellectual property of the organization get lost, and there is a threat to the organization onto that. So the moment you are not adapting your network, you are not adopting your network to the BYOD, but still there are users who are deliberately and deliberately using their mobile device for the network, and you are not aware of that. So the crux is that whosoever has embraced that concept is really great. Whosoever not, please lay the foundation, drive the strategy, and we'll set some guidelines from a Juniper perspective. What are the different things which you can do to accept this kind of process? Now BYOD, as I said, there are a lot of organizations and individuals who are dabbling with the concept that what actually is BYOD. For someone, BYOD is just giving an access to a mobile device. If he comes to a wired network or wireless network, and if he is part of a network, which means BYOD is ready. For some, it is more of a mobile security. If mobile is part of the network and the mobile is secured from antivirus perspective or some XYZ perspective, then BYOD is already there in the network. From some point of view, if the mobile is controlled in terms of business usage and the personal usage in terms of partitioning of the mobile, then BYOD is ready. So these are small nuggets in terms of the definition which everyone has perceived in their mind. But actually BYOD is a bigger umbrella. There's a lot of solution set which goes into that. So we'll see how we can define a simplistic way what actually is a BYOD, and all these solution components will ultimately fit into that. Whether it's a mobile device management, whether it's a network access control, whether it's a remote access control, whether it's a mobile security, all will ultimately fit into that umbrella. Now, as I said, BYOD is not about bringing an external device and giving it control and saying that this device is now under control. I am managing that device, which means there is no harm in my network once the device is brought into my network. But the concept is not like that. The right concept is basically one user is handling multiple devices. It can be a machine which is given by the corporate. It can be my own personal device which I am used to access the personal information or the business information, or it may be a controlled device which is monitored under the IT organization policies. So one user is bringing all the devices. So the right approach would be to have some kind of policy or a solution set which actually manages all these kind of devices. And these can grow on from 3 to 4 to 5. The second thing is that different users and different devices and different kind of need. Probably a machine which is given by a corporate will have full access to all the data center resources or the corporate resources. But a device which is a mobile device which is external and not under control of IT supervision, that will only require probably an internet access. He comes into the network, latches onto the Wi-Fi, he just needs internet access, that's all. And third thing is that a mobile device or a mobile handset, a smartphone which is given by the organization, controlled by the organization policy, should be given better access than an external device. So different kind of needs are there. First thing is that a user is bringing multiple device, and then multiple device and multiple user different kind of access. So all these things also needs to be taken care when you draft a kind of BYOD policy for your organization. So these four models which you look on the screen is basically a philosophy of Juniper or approach of Juniper. What we say is basically if you implement four of these module in a holistic approach, probably you're driving the right strategy of a BYOD. The first module is device profiling or a user profiling. If you as an organization are able to profile the device, which can be any device, iPhone, an iPad or a laptop or whatever, or if you are able to profile a user, then basically the first step is completed. You know who is coming to your network. The second thing is that onboarding, because until unless the device is not part of your network, it is not harming you. I mean, I am carrying my device within my organization and I am not connected, it's no harm to the organization. So the second thing is that you have to onboard the device, which means onboard the device or onboard a user, which means a user who is coming maybe from externally over the VPN, a user who comes physically onto my office and latches to my wired network or wireless network, he needs to give access. If he is an external user, he should be given tight controlled access in supervision of IT. So basically the second thing is that once you profile the user, you profile the device, you need to give them access. How to give that access is again under the guidelines or policy of a BYOD. The third thing is that now I have given access. Now I have to make sure that device or that user doesn't harm my network. The third thing is the secure. So once you implement security in the way that your mobile device is controlled, whatever application he accesses is basically under your supervision. If he allowed only to access internet, he should be only allowed internet access. He should not be allowed other stuff. If it is a tight security policy from the access point of view and from the mobile control point of view, then it's fine. Or the other way is, there are organization policy which says that mobile devices who are brought into our network should not have some kind of application downloaded onto that. Maybe some of the social application or gaming application, because that may harm the network. The fourth thing is that management. Once everything is done, you have profiled the device, you have onboarded the device or user, you have secured the user or a device, and then you have to manage that. What kind of application he accesses, whether he is under our supervision or not, or whether he is boycotting the policy, something like that. So if you complete all these four modules, probably then this would be the right strategy in a tight fashion for a holistic approach. So now we'll see how with the Juniper solution approach we can fit onto all these four modules and whatever solution set which are available with Juniper, or we also have the options of the things which we cannot accomplish by having a tighter integration with our ecosystem partners. With the Juniper solution framework, there are three things we control. One is the guest access, which means a user who is either maybe employee or maybe a guest, but his mobile device, his identity is not tracked by me or not monitored by me. For me, he is a guest user. Okay. Even if an employee of Juniper Network, I bring my own device which is not controlled by Juniper, I am a guest user for them. The second thing is that a user who is having a mobile devices but is a controlled user. I have some kind of client, some kind of inspection which is happening on that device, and I know that if you access my network, it is under my control. And third thing is that corporate owned devices like machines and laptops which also need to be controlled. So Juniper solution approach actually caters to all these three different segments. And the major components which encompasses these solutions are two components. One is Junos Pulse. Junos Pulse actually is a software platform. This is a universal client from Juniper which basically helps to leverage three of the functionality. One is a user who wants to onboard into a network from a remote site, he can leverage Junos Pulse for a remote VPN connectivity, kind of SSL VPN connectivity. So that part is done with this help. Second thing is that if the Junos Pulse is loaded onto a mobile device and the user comes physically onto the office or a corporate network, he tries to latch in via wired or wireless network, his access will be controlled, which is basically a network access control. The third thing is that with the help of Junos Pulse, his mobile device secure, I can control what application he accesses, I can control what apps he downloads, and lot of things I can do. So all these things are basically achieved through a single software component called Junos Pulse. It's a very thin client which can be used on a mobile device or on a normal laptop or desktop machine. And in conjunction with a Mac series, so if you see here this Pulse with a Mac. So Mac is a kind of platform which acts as a kind of head-end device and which gives you a functionality of onboarding the device who are out of the office, kind of SSL VPN, or onboarding the device who are part of the network via a kind of access control functionality from wireless and wired perspective. And they also give you a feature where I said initially the four modules, the first module is device profiling. Okay, handheld device has to be postured or has to be profiled based on his Mac and based on if it's iPad or iPhone. So that kind of profiling is also done by one of the component of this Mac platform. Onboarding, securing, and profiling and managing. All these components or all these modules are achieved by these two solution sets called Junos Pulse and the Mac as a appliance. These both are Juniper components, and then we'll talk about some of the ecosystem components which we integrate in the whole ecosystem. Now let's take a simple flow. Three types of use cases can happen. I said a user who is using his machine which is under strict control, external user who is bringing his own device, and an employee who is bringing a mobile device but again controlled by organization policies. So three use cases, and we'll see how this solution flows actually. That will actually clarify, or that will actually clear all the aspect of BYOD trends and that core module which I shared. First thing is that corporate issue laptop which is running a Junos Pulse, okay, the software component which I said. Now look at this diagram, I'll just simplify this diagram. This Mac is a platform as I said, okay, this is an appliance as a platform. SRX is a firewall which is protecting server farms. So very simple design. You have a platform and then you have a firewall protecting the resources. You have Active Directory basically for the user authentication. Now if a user who is using the machine controlled by IT organization of the corporate, he tries to connect to these resources. So what he has to do remotely from his home or maybe a remote site, he has to do a VPN connection. Okay. So this Mac platform will help him to do SSL VPN connection with one of the module fitted onto this. So first thing is that onboarding of the device is done as a remote user. Second thing is that when that is done, the Junos Pulse component will actually take care of what kind of policy needs to be done. For example, whether the machine has updated his antivirus or not, whether he has the right patches or not, whether he is running the right operating system or not, whether he is coming from the right MAC ID or not. These kind of machine and endpoint checks can be done by the Junos Pulse which is running on that machine. And top of that, because now that is the poster check. Now how will I control what kind of access he is allowed and what kind of access is not allowed? Because he has given a VPN connectivity. He is probably gathering an IP address with which he can roam into the entire network. With the help of federation, which is one of a functionality or one of the module, what we can do is this Mac appliance which is running a network access control and the VPN, both can talk to each other, and a remote user VPN policies will be dynamically loaded onto this firewall which says that this user is only allowed to access probably a finance application and not the marketing application or not maybe HR application. Based on his credential, either maybe as a user credential, as a device which is holding, as a MAC address, the different parameter which can be leveraged, his access will be controlled via the firewall. And how it was done basically, this MAC as a platform will push policies. So now you have onboarded the device but in a secured manner. The second thing is that if the same user now is part of your physical network, he is not coming over the remote VPN but rather he is latching onto a wired or wireless network. Now this shown that again there is a firewall, it's protecting a lot of resources. Now the user is EX is a switching platform and WLC is like a wireless module. If user connects to any of this module, the same thing will apply because the Pulse client is common. Now he will again, his Pulse client will initiate, he will get an access, the policy will be pushed on different devices and network will be, his access will be controlled. Again, we are able to onboard the device with the same policies and with the same client, with the same hardware, and we can control his network access. So it doesn't matter user comes out of the office or user is sitting in the office. This is one way of doing the onboarding. The second thing is that if your user brings his own device which is not part of organization. Now this user is a kind of guest user for organization. So there are two ways. Either if he is carrying a handheld device, obviously right now the all handheld devices like phone and iPad, they don't latch into the wired network, they latch into the wireless network. So the moment they latch into a wireless network, one of our component called Smart Pass is again a software component. It will throw a page to the user and it will say that you are a guest user. Either if allowed by the organization policy, he can create his own account, or he will, if the account is already created by IT team or a receptionist, that can be shared to the user and he just fill in his credentials and now is part of the network in a tight fashion. As a guest user, he doesn't need to run any kind of Pulse client or anything. The only thing he needs to do, the moment he latches onto the wireless network, he will be given a page and where he can put his credentials or even he can create his own credentials based on the policies. So now external user is again a part of your network. Or maybe if the user can come via wired port, because that was a solution pertaining to wireless only. The smart pass is a component which is only for the wireless part. If the user is capable of connecting over the wired network or the wireless network, again I said the MAC platform can be leveraged where his identity or his credentials can be created and he can be made part of the network. So the idea is, when even he is not running any kind of client which is supported by organization, he will be thrown a web page where he can put his credential and he can be given a controlled access. So this is onboarding a device which is external to the organization. The third use case would be a corporate issue smartphone. Again, a handheld device, a mobile device, but is controlled by the organization, and it is running the Junos Pulse component. Now there are two ways. Again, I said if the device is only connected via wireless medium, we again have the same component called MAG, which will control the access. Junos Pulse with MAG will control the access of the network, but whether he is rightly allowed or not allowed. Once he is allowed, what kind of control has to be given, and he will push policies to various components. The policy can be pushed to a wireless controller, policies can be pushed to a switch, policy can be pushed to a firewall. The same way. It's like actually your own machine, but only thing is the device has changed from a machine to a laptop or to a mobile device. And if a user comes, maybe latch on to the wired and wireless, then we can use the guest functionality of this MAC component. So both ways we can actually onboard a device which is controlled by the organization. So these three use cases are basically onboarding a device and controlling the access. Now what about having a security of the mobile device itself? Whether the mobile device is protected by any kind of module or not, that was not covered under these three sections. Now how we can achieve that? Before that, I will just focus on this one component. I said you have to profile the device. Okay, so there is one component on the MAC platform, the same hardware. There is one module which does the profiling of the devices. The profiling can be done in many ways. It can be a MAC address, it can be IP address, it can be operating system, it can be device manufacturer. So we can come to know it's an Android device or it's an iOS device or it's a BlackBerry device that way. So this profiling can be done, and this profiling database can be used to give access. Because there might be different policy where you say Android user is not allowed as part of my network, but iOS user is allowed. I mean, just give an example. So this kind of profiling, this kind of access can only be given once you have profiled the device. Well, user profiling is very easy. User profiling is basically once you log into Active Directory, you know that is a user. But profile of a device has to be there, which is not part of Active Directory, can be done by this. There is a small module which will do that. Now, as I said, now this basically covers the use cases of giving access to a network to a user and controlling the access. But what about having a kind of control things of a mobile device itself, which generally people say mobile device management. Now, though Juniper has a kind of non-MDM, I would say MSS, mobile security solution of its own, which is a cloud-based environment, a user using the same Junos Pulse can leverage that cloud platform and he can control his security policy over mobile. But we know that there are not many players who already have a large install base in the organization. For example, Mobile Iron and Airwatch, these kind of organization who are already established players in the MDM space, and they have already the install base in many organizations. So even if you have the install base of that kind of MDM player, we can leverage them and we can integrate with our solution. And how we do that is basically, for example, there is a mobile device who latches onto the wireless network. And again, this is a MAG, UAC is a MAG access control engine, and then there is an enforcer which is a firewall or a switch which is controlling the resources. So what it says, if a mobile device is jailbroken or an installed application which should not be allowed as part of your network. Now that mobile device, part of the MDM solution, will talk to the MDM and will update him, these are the applications I have installed, and MDM solution probably will say this is not a compliant machine or this is not a compliant mobile device. The next thing will happen, MDF changes compliance status for device. Okay, that's a normal behavior. That's part of the MDM solution itself. Now, when there is a periodic check by the policy engine, because now this device is part of the network, my policy engine keeps on checking the users who are logged in. He will check, he can integrate with the MDM service and see what is the profile of this user, what are the attributes of this user. Should I allow this device or should not allow this device? So based on that information which I can fetch from an MDM server, I can control my policies. I can say to a firewall, to a switch, that user is allowed or not allowed, or he should be given restricted access. So this basically covers the security piece of a mobile where you already have an install base or any kind of mobile RN or AirWatch kind of MDM solutions, and we can leverage that, we can tightly integrate with that. We can fetch the information from that solution. So that's the entire flow actually. So basically, after the onboarding, after the device profiling, after the onboarding, this covers the security aspect of a mobile device or a handheld device through your existing install base of MDM solution. You are not longer to connect to the enterprise resources due to MDM policy violation. This is the normal behavior. Let's summarize the things. I kept it small because we also have a demo for 10-15 minutes depicting all these use cases of external device connecting to the network. So in summary, I mean, whosoever has already embraced this concept is really great. Who would like to drive the strategy, you can embrace this concept, you can embrace this practice with Juniper Pulse solution and the Mac platform kind of solution. And we can also leverage the existing integration with your incumbent mobile device management solutions. So that's what I wanted to share. My colleague Deepak will come and demonstrate some kind of use case. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. So, as Rohit talked in this session, that when we talk about BYOD, one of the few requirements is that we need to have differential access. So, if you want to have employee-based access, contractor access, or guest user access, we should be able to differentiate that. That is what we are going to show here. Two more things what we show here is host checking, wherein we check for the compliance of the laptop against the security policies. If it is compliant, then only it would be able to access the resources. And the final thing what we do is if someone starts up a AP, an access point, a rogue access point, how can we detect it, and then we can block it and do certain measures on that. So that would be the theme for the demo. So starting with the first use case, logging in as an employee. So what do we have here is we created this small framework for demo itself. So it's kind of an automated script which helps with the automation. So what we've done so far is some resolution. Okay. So using the Junos Pulse client, what we've done is we've connected user as an employee, and we'll see if you can access the internet. So we'll open sites like the CNN, Facebook, as you can see the internet access is going through. It's slightly slow, but and then we'll also see if you can access some of the internal resources. So I'll start off with a demo finance server which we've created. We'll also see if you can connect to sites like YouTube and BBC. So I'm just opening new tabs, and while they load up, I'll just take you through the other websites. So as you can see, we have internet connectivity. We have also connectivity to Facebook and internal resources. Also sites like YouTube, or the normal internet sites like the BBC, they are all accessible when we are logging as employee. Now what we do is with the disconnect and we would log in as a contractor. When we log in as contractor, we would have access to the internal resources, but some access would not be there. So things like Facebook or YouTube would not work. So we are disconnecting from on the Junos Pulse client, and this time we are connecting as contractor, as you can see. Okay, so we'll again open the internet browser and let's see if you can access websites like CNN, if you can access Facebook, if you can access internal server, if you can access YouTube, for example, or BBC. So as you can see, CNN opened up fine. So we do have internet connectivity. The internal resource, which was our finance server, also opened up fine. However, if you see the connectivity to Facebook or the YouTube, although it looks like it's trying to open up, the connection will never mature. So what we've done is we've done a role-based restriction wherein the contractors in the current setup are barred from accessing Facebook and YouTube. They have access to other internet websites and they also have access to the internal web server. So any questions on the two use cases we just discussed?
When you configure this one, how it is configured? It is based on the domain ID or it's a separate profile over there?
So it is based on the domain ID. So what we do is we integrate with the already deployed authentication server, external authentication server. It can be LDAP, it can be Active Directory, Radius, it can be certificate authority. So anything what we have, we can integrate with it, and based on the user credentials, we identify the user, and then we we can do two types of enforcement: layer 2 enforcement, wherein we can push the user to a targeted VLAN, or we can have them get access only to a specific VLAN. And we also do layer 3 enforcement, wherein we can force a user to only, for example, if it's a finance user, to the finance server but not have access to the sales resources. And we can also do application control, application firewalling and control, wherein we can say, for example, if the user is trying to access Gmail, for example. Now Gmail, if you look as an application, has three inbuilt applications into it. One is a mail application, one is a chat application, and the recent one which introduced the voice chat. So we have the option on the SRX, wherein using the app secure component, we can do application based firewalling, wherein we can, for example, permit the email application only but block chat and voice chat. So that would be the L3 enforcement which would be done. So if you look at the setup, the access can be wired or wireless, wherein we can implement 802.1x, which would be layer 2 enforcement. Post that, there would be the internet gateway firewall, wherein we can do the layer 3 enforcement.
The user contractor is authenticated on your domain, or is he authenticated on your internet?
So what we have is, we have a component we call as MAG, which is our policy engine, so to say. It's a central place which pushes policy either to the layer 2, so the controller, or to the switch for the 802.1x. Also, it has the capability to push policies to the firewall. So what happens is, this controller, this central piece, MAG, interacts with our XOT server. So all the requests come to MAG. MAG internally talks to the XOT server as needed. It can talk to multiple different servers if there is a need. So for example, many times what we have seen is in deployments for wireless, there is a different auth server, whereas if we talk about laptops or desktops, there is many times a different auth server. So with this setup, what we gain is a central piece of central engine, we can say, which is MAG, wherein all the auth requests goes, and in turn, in the back end, it interacts with the correct auth server. So does that answer your question?
No. How have you defined contractor? That was the
Okay.
question. Contractor is a domain user, or is he just a internet user whom you define an internet user called contractor and you have given him access to internet? Or is he authenticated on the domain and the domain authentication allows him to use internet?
So when you say domain, so I want to understand, are you talking about the machine credentials?
Your network, how do you...
So there are two ways by which a user can gain access. One is we do a single sign-on, wherein once the user logs on to a Windows machine using Control-Alt-Del, we can reuse the same credentials over and over again, wherein the user need not re-authenticate. That is one way. The other is user authenticates with whatever username password he does. Then he launches a thick client, which is Junos Pulse in our case, and then enters the username and password. So which case are you talking about, sir?
I'm talking about the first case.
You are talking about the first case. So that is possible. We have not done that for this demo here.
Okay, single sign-on is not done.
For the demo, no. But single
It is
sign-on is possible.
The second question is, can you create a situation or a scenario where you can open up the Facebook page but will not allow him to, when he tries to put the credentials, then you tell him that this is restricted or you are not allowed to use this within the premises?
We can do restriction based on different apps. So in Facebook, if you look, Farmville is one of the apps, for example. So we can do URL blocking completely if we want, wherein the user would not be able to open the Facebook website at all. Or
Which is your case actually.
yes, which is so yes, which is the case over here, right? Yes.
Yeah, but the other one, like you open up the Facebook
Yes,
page,
yes.
but you do for this set of users,
Yes.
contractor or whoever, you don't allow him to when
Right.
he tries to
Correct.
authenticate.
So application firewall is the component which would help us do that. So based on per application, I can take a decision whether to permit or deny the app.
That's a feature within Pulse, is it?
That's a feature on the SRX firewall. So for the complete ecosystem, we would need the MAG, which would be the central policy engine. We need the L3 enforcer, which would be SRX, and if needed, we'll also have the layer 2 enforcers. It can be wired or wireless, so a switch or a wireless controller.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, so let me proceed, and this time we'll go with the guest user. Here, what would happen is when a guest user is connecting, most of the times they would not have the prescribed thick client software. So what would happen is a guest would walk in. For example, we are all guests here, so we walk into the room. We see a open SSID by the name Taj. We latch onto it, and then we try to browse something. So let me go to google.com. So the first thing which happens is we get a agreement notification. Once the user agrees, and as you can see, this is time bound access wherein we are permitting access for only 30 minutes. So once the user agrees, he can then further go on to the website. So now the user would not have access to the internal resources. So if I try to access the finance server, for example, the guest user would not have access to the finance server. So this page would try to keep loading. Whereas if we access Facebook, Yahoo, YouTube, the guest user is allowed access. This again can be restricted. Currently we have not, but based on it's a configurable parameter, which if needed, we can restrict the access to the guest as well.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Manoj. So currently whatever you have told, right, that is already being done. We are already doing it. Now, if I would like to see this product, I would like to see it a little bit more matured, and I would like to understand few questions.
Right.
Now, how do I identify guests in my network? Right?
Okay.
There can be hundreds of guests who would have my access, wireless access signals being made available in my vicinity of my office.
Right.
And they would try to do this. They will get access for 30 minutes. They will have their life, and I'll have my difficulty in managing the network.
Agreed.
So, is there some kind of notification which gets generated or goes to IT team, which tells that guests with this MAC address or the device profiling that we have done has logged in? Would you like to evaluate access, approve, block, or whatever?
So we can have the guest user access wherein it might be the receptionist who's generating the username and passwords, or it can be a self-provisioning portal wherein as a guest I would first put in my username, put in maybe my name and name and telephone number, email ID.
No, so let us take this situation as if I am a guest.
Right.
Okay, so when I come to your office and I need an access, somebody would have to tell me that this is the guest ID and this is the password that you have to use.
So it can be done in few ways. One way is we can have an open SSID.
No, so open and any which way.
Please allow me to complete. Wherein a guest logs on to the open SSID. After that, he is thrown onto a portal wherein he is required to either generate a username password for himself, or the receptionist who is sitting there would give him the username and password.
Some kind of workflow is possible through this application that you are proposing. Means some kind of approval process wherein whenever he asks for an access, that would be add-on, right? Means I would be able to actually control it thoroughly. You don't. So typically when guests enter into office, it's basically misuse of password, which I'm trying to understand.
Right. I understand. Yes. So what we are saying here is, when the guest connects, I am allowing the guest to connect, have the layer 3 connectivity, but after that I force the guest to a captive portal. The guest would be able to come out of that captive portal only with the help of a username and password. Rohit, you can maybe add here.
So I am actually adding one more layer of transaction. Right? If I am putting guest to a portal or to a web page wherein he has to actually agree to that agreement, and then he has to ask for that ID and password. I am trying to eliminate that need by virtue of a workflow, so that I am not hazard when I have guest in my premises and I am in control of the situation.
So how would so in that case
So I'm just trying to understand this, exploring if your tool or the product has an ability to generate a workflow within itself, which goes to a defined team, and once they approve it, so let us say they say okay, approved, then only the guest user is able to log in without any credential at all. So the moment I agree, click on that agreement, right, I am trying to control, remove those unnecessary steps wherein somebody has to walk in. That may lead to frustration, right?
Okay.
I mean, you said the right approach, probably that is the right workflow which organization would be looking. But the other alternate way is basically, if someone has to give an access as a guest, the control will be the IT team. Okay. Now that guest access has to be created in some kind of portal or some kind of page.
Also, already मेरे पास है ना. Why do I need this product?
No.
So
But
I am trying to understand this product as a differential as compared to the existing technology that I am using. Right?
Okay.
So those options I already have. I am already exercising them. So what value are you guys are bringing? I want to understand.
Yeah, so in case you're already using some kind of product like this, where you have the guest access portal and all that, probably that is not the leveraging thing for you. But for the others, what we can do is not in terms of workflow, but the guest access creation facility will only be given to some user ID and password, where he can only log into that page and he can only create the user ID password. But it will not go to approval process, but yes, the creation process is given only to certain authority who has that user credentials.
Okay. So I got the answer. Now second point. I have a need to control the password misuse. Right? So engineering a field force, typically they go tally with the users and the guests, right? And we all face this problem and passwords are being shared indiscriminately with everyone as if we are brothers and sisters. Right? So that leads to problem in my network because I am not able to control number of logins.
Correct.
So would you be able to give me an option wherein I am able to control number of guest logins,
Okay.
or I am able to control number of smart devices logins into my networks, irrespective what MAC address it is coming. It may be a repeat MAC address, it may be a new MAC address of the new device which has entered into my environment. Would I be able to restrict number of logins?
Yes.
through this?
So basically, if you're talking about guest only, or maybe example
Overall.
smart pass solution can
Overall.
be used by guest or by the employee itself.
Okay.
Okay. So you have the possibility where it says that only one time login is allowed.
Okay.
Okay, or maybe one access is allowed, and probably after 2 hours, 3 hours, he will be logged out or his session will only exceed 2 hours. So in that way, you can control because you are going and logged
I
in.
am asking this question little one step ahead. So if you look at our Juniper access points that we have, right, and if we speak about the ability of an access point to give IPs, typically it goes around 150, right? But we prefer to restrict it ourselves to 80 accesses being done through an AP. I am trying to control that because otherwise I would have to have access point at each and every step, right? Walking step. So I want to control the expense in terms of number of access points that I am installing in my office vis-a-vis the number of users that are logging. So if I do that approach, still my access point may be logged for 2 hours, right? There is a possibility that 80 users may log in to a particular access point in 2 hours. So can I refresh it manually? Can I actually control the number of users?
Yeah, so basically that part is not part of a smart pass or like guest control feature because generally the IP is not even the access point. Access point is generally a layer 2 a bridge
Correct.
where you just latch it.
Correct.
And you want where basically on this particular access point you should not have more than 20 users.
Is there a policy where you can have number of concurrent users which are restricted at like time-based kind of thing?
Yeah,
that,
so on
that number of concurrent users should be restricted. So I should be able to at least get how many users are allocated and who are denied basically. If that kind of some kind of triggers can be generated on that.
So basically these are two different contexts. So for sir to answer the
I think it's
basically
one and the
so
same.
I'm talking about from the access point of view. So these functionality are given the access point where you can say
Right.
only 10 or 20 users are allowed to
My
be connected.
concurrent access point came later. This was the first one.
Yeah,
which
so
I started.
on this, what we can do is basically one way is basically you procure the license in a way that these generally works on a concurrent session basis. So you have only 20 concurrent user license, so you are sure that 21 user cannot come in simultaneously. So that way you can easily control only 20 users are allowed. And then even if you want to make sure that 20 users should not be latched for 20 hours or 1 hour, then you can put a time-based policies.
And one more question I have is like the way the MDM controls the information rights register today. If you see, you have many different things available in the market today. So when you talk about mobile data device management, and you have a possibility of where I come from a typical telcos background where we have certain content-based encryptions. So do we have any kind of information rights which are registered basically, which gives an access policy to certain users who can extract the content and they cannot be parsed or something like that? Is that a possibility? Something like digital rights management, which is integrated as a part of the MDM policy today. Do we have that kind of
So
thing?
generally the MDM policy actually we rely on the ecosystem part. For example, we integrate with mobile island. So whatever mobile policies or this kind of encryption policies are there in the MDM, we can leverage that because we don't push policy from our side.
So you work very closely with mobile island.
Yes,
That means-
mobile island and AirWatch we have an alliance.
And what about the kind of concept that Watchdogs does today, basically, which does kind of digitization and then controls and restricts everything, and something does not pass out of your premises or probably anywhere, irrespective of the geographies you are.
So if I'm not wrong, that is basically part again of the MDM solution itself.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
part
So
of it.
so if these functionality are not given in the mobile island or AirWatch as of now, probably you won't be able to achieve that. But our scale is growing. For example, we started with mobile island. Now integrate with AirWatch and probably we will go and exceeding with other major players. So these all capabilities actually we don't rely on us. These are part of the MDM
Because we
features.
have almost 130,000 devices of mobile island deployed throughout the globe.
Okay.
So, but what we are facing is content-based security issues basically. For the content-based things, we are really finding some problems where we are not getting digitizations or information rights. So if you have some kind of solution, so we'll be more than happy to explore that.
But we can do basically because if you said that you don't have that kind of solution even in the MDM itself or mobile island, then probably you won't be able to leverage with the integration possibility because we rely on them. But yes, we can, whenever possible, we can have a kind of POC in your setup and we can see what all features we can accomplish with that.
So we used to have, just to add to it, we had our MDM, our own MDM solution when we acquired S Mobile. But we are not going that path, and now we are completely relying on our ecosystem partners, AirWatch and Mobile Iron for the MDM solution. So we are only integrating with that. So whatever native features out of the box are provided on Mobile Iron and AirWatch, that is what would be there.
Yeah, so maybe these are the thoughts for future improvements or improvements.
Sure.
One more thing. So
Mhm.
before I put the mic off.
So, in the interest of time, can I please request you to take these questions offline?
It will be
Probably this
beneficial
is
for
the
everybody.
last. Okay, we'll have this last
So these are
question and then.
beneficial for everybody. I am not asking personal questions from there. So, next question is, so when we talk about these mobile users, right? We spoke that in case there is an application which is not authorized in my environment and somebody has downloaded that, the moment that person logs into my network as a guest or as an employee, it prompts a notification that you are not authorized because you have some unwanted application. So just want to understand, would it give categorically the name of the application that is fussy, which user can uninstall and then can reattempt the login, or would it simply block the user?
So basically this entire flow again, what it happens is if user has installed an application, first of all it will inform to the MDM server itself. Now whenever my policy engine fetches the information from the MDM server, I will come to know that this application should not be there, the user is not compliant, and I have to block the access. So our role will be blocking the access. Whatever message has to be given to the mobile device is given by the MDM server itself. So we will only inform MDM server that we have blocked this user, so you can throw a message to the user. Now that message can be customized, I believe, from the MDM policy
From the
itself.
engine itself, yes. Fine, so we'll go ahead and we'll go with the post checking. So in this test, what we would do is we would log in as employee, and we would disable the firewall which is running on this system for some time, and we'd lose access to the protected resources till the time the firewall is not enabled back on. So here we are logging as the employee. So once the connection is completed, we'll be able to, what we'll do is we'll try and access the protected resource. So we'll access the finance server in this case. So currently the access is there. So we have verified the connectivity, so I'll go next. Okay. So we'll click yes. So now we've disabled the antivirus software. So snooze antivirus for 5 minutes is what we are doing. Now as you can see on this Junos Pulse, automatically it would detect that the antivirus has been disabled. You see now a small red icon coming over here. Now we'll try to access the finance server and we'll try to access the internet. So this is finance server. So as you can see, the access is stopped. Whereas if we try to access Facebook, for example, which is pure internet, that access will go through. Right. Next, what we do is we enable back the antivirus software again. So this antivirus has been enabled. Resume antivirus. Let me close few of these windows. Okay. So it's reevaluating over here, and it would automatically reevaluate. But open a web browser and try and access the protected resource, which is finance server in our case, and as you can see, we have gained access back to it. And so coming on to the last part of it, which is rogue AP detection. So let's say if someone has installed a wireless access point in the office, how can we detect such things? So what we'll do is, first of all, we'll open a component what we call as ring master. So this is the software which we use for controlling our wireless infrastructure for the access points and the click enable wireless and I hit apply. So we have started our SSID by the name killer employee. Okay. So rogue wireless access point detected. So if we click over here, we'll see the details, and if we click on locate, so we get a pictorial representation of the wireless, the rogue access point on the network. So we can take an action wherein we can physically disable it or so this completes the demo for today. Thank you everyone.